Hi, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode number 59. Our topic for today, we're going to talk about how do you deal with unexpected requests as a photographer. Thank you for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show. My name is William Beem.
My name is Lee Beem.
Every once in a while, you get these little unexpected requests, and I'm talking about most of us that I think are probably listening to the show are people who are not necessarily into photography as a profession, but more as a serious hobby.
Yes.
And occasionally you'll get someone who comes along and wants something, and you're totally unprepared to deal with it.
That's exactly the words I was going to use. It just catches you off guard.
It's happened to me a number of times. I know it's happened to you, and I'm expecting that it's happened to people that are listening. But before we get into all that, let me go ahead and say show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 59. And of course, you can get a free transcript of the show there. And you can find links to subscribe at photoflunky.com. One other thing I want to bring up, I created a free ebook on creative portraiture. At least that's the name of it. And it's 36 pages, some of which are useful. And it just shows,
it's a lovely book. It really is.
It just shows a lot of examples of how you can use creativity in your portraiture. It's not a technical book. It is a creative book, and it's free. You're welcome to it. Just go to williambeem.com and you'll see a number of links there where you can get the ebook for free.
And you're allowed to share it with a friend.
Absolutely.
Or lots of friends if you're popular.
If you think someone else will appreciate it, by all means, feel free to pass this one around. Okay, so let's get down to this. And when we're talking about how do you deal with unexpected requests as a photographer, I'm talking mostly about people who are doing this not as a business, but because they enjoy it, because they're enthusiastic about photography. And a lot of amateurs have gone out and created some really beautiful work. And sooner or later, someone's going to come across and say, I like that. I want what you've got, or I want you to do something different for me.
Yes.
Then it's like you say, oh, but I don't do this as a business. So what do I do next?
I know, it just completely catches you by surprise.
Let's start off with one that just came to me recently. I had a request for one of my photographs as a print, and it's my photograph of the World War II Marine Memorial, the Iwo Jima Memorial where the Marines are hoisting the flag. And someone said, I really like that. I would like a 5x7 copy of it for a friend of mine who's, coming home from the Marines. And it's a simple, honest request. I can understand, why they want to do that. But I typically don't sell prints as small as 5x7. I've sent a note back, I'm asking, said, well, one, I'm flattered. It's not something I typically do, but how do you want it? I mean, are you just looking for a photo print? Are you looking for something framed? Do you want it on canvas? And I don't know. I'm not really prepared for something that was not something I'd typically sell.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. When it's not something you typically do, you need to step back and say, okay, what is it about this that makes me feel uncertain? Just because it's different isn't enough. You need to find out what is it that they're really wanting. And I think that's the bottom line for any request. What exactly is it that you're wanting and why?
But there's the other half of it is it worth your time to do it? This one, I really respect, what somebody's doing, what they're asking for. There are a ton of photographs that they could probably find something of that memorial without necessarily having mine. It's flattering that they asked me for one, but I'm sure there are plenty of places where they can get it. Here's the reason why I typically don't do 5x7 prints. It's not really profitable.
It's not.
I mean, I get that people want them, but unless you do them in bulk, it's not really profitable to print off a 5x7, then ship it off and do all that stuff. Because how much can you charge for something that is readily available elsewhere?
That's true, but sometimes it's nice to do something.
It is, and I think that's a judgment call. Now, requests for prints sometimes are different than that. I've had some corporate buyers who've come along and wanted some of my prints or wanted some of my art for their offices, and those were on a larger scale. Those were like 24 by 36 prints. Some were prints, some were canvas, but they were looking for something that was going to hang on the wall, and that's a different story. Those, I think, are worth, you can charge enough overhead over what it costs to print that it's profitable and it's worth your time to do it.
Yes.
Even if you do that, you still have to be prepared to invoice them. I mean, if a corporation comes to you, they pay off of invoices.
Yeah, they do.
I found some services like Gumroad will help you set up invoices or online sales. FreshBooks or I think QuickBooks will also let you generate invoices if you want to make a business out of this. But you know what? If you're doing it just kind of as a one-off, so you got surprised by it, you're probably going to go off and print something up in Microsoft Word or Pages on the Mac.
And that's absolutely fine. If you've got, just make sure that you have the necessary information in there. So to do a little bit of homework first to make sure that yourself and your buyer is protected.
Yes, that way you say like, here's what I'm providing you, here's what the cost is, here's when payment is due. But it kind of takes you by surprise the first time someone approaches you with that.
Well,
Even what to charge.
my reaction the first time, it actually wasn't for money. It was just to use one of them. And they did ask, and I respected that. But I think that my initial reaction was, why? Why my why? There's nice photos out there. Why do you want mine?
Well, that happens quite a bit. But let's go ahead with yours. I mean, we're talking about photo usage. So someone asked you that you had a photo that they wanted, and they're asking you for permission to use it?
They did, and it was for some social media platform. I forget what. And it was probably, but I think most of mine have been requests to use as a cover photo or as a featured photo, on some kind of post or something. I've never asked for money for it because I've never seen my photography as a business. I have always just done it for the love of it. And part of the love of it, part of the reward that I get, and that's not to say it's always going to be that way, but is being able to share it. And if somebody appreciates it, that to me was pretty meaningful. So I have always said yes.
It is flattering. Someone comes up and says, I saw your photo on Flickr. I'd like to use it. I think, really? Mine? Cool.
Yeah.
And then the question is, okay, well, what do you want to use it for? How long do you want to use it? Is this something I can charge for?
Yes, and I think I didn't have the experience, the knowledge to even think of those questions, but I don't have any regrets. I mean, I made somebody happy. It didn't cost me anything, and I didn't lose anything because I'm not selling photos, not at this point anyway.
That's one of the things that I think sets off a lot of people in the photography community. People come up and ask to use your photo for free. Now, clearly, it costs you money to take the photo. I mean,
Yes.
You've got to buy the gear, you've got to go someplace, you've got to take. It costs money to create a photo. And then here they come along and want it for free. If it's somebody for a social media profile, well, they're just making a request. I don't have a problem with that at all. However, if somebody's doing it for a business purpose, I've had a number of magazines that have asked me, it's like, oh, I really like this photo. I'd like to print it. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget.
Yeah, that's kind of...
And I think, it's like if you're trying to make a profit, then don't cut me out of it.
But I think I was always presented the request with an offer for a link back. And given that it was social media, they were not making money off of this. It never occurred to me to charge. If somebody asked that now, I still wouldn't charge, depending who it is, I suppose.
I've done that a number of times for people. They ask for social media. I've said yes. Matter of fact, for a while, I used to even create some of my work as Facebook headers.
Yes, I've used all of them.
and I sold them for like a really inexpensive price, like maybe $5 or something for a bundle.
It was $5 for the bundle, yes.
Some people bought them, they used them, and I thought, I'm okay with that. It was just one other package. I thought if there's a bit of a demand for it, then somebody will take them.
Yes.
But there was also people who were looking for things in business that wanted to use them. I've had a congressman approach me about my photo of the Capitol, wanted to use it when he makes, he's got a vineyard, so he's making wine.
Oh, I want to be a congressman.
It's a shame you weren't here at the time. And that deal didn't come through. I do actually have that photo hanging in Congress, but I don't have it for that particular congressman on his label for wine.
Oh.
Just because it just didn't come through. It's like what have you got to trade for an exchange for? He said, well, I can send you a case of wine. I thought, well, I didn't want a case of wine.
That's because you weren't married to me yet.
I was not married to you at the time.
Because I would have talked you into it.
But photo usage is probably the most common request that I get. Hi, I like your photo. I want to use it. And think, okay. And some people will even ask, they'll say if it's for a commercial purpose, how much do you charge? And that's really the tricky thing, is because are they looking for something that they're the only user of it, so it's exclusive to them? Are they looking for, how are they going to use it? Is it going to be on a product, or is it going to be hanging on the wall someplace?
Is it going to be used repeatedly, and are they going to make money from
Are they going to
using
use? Are they going to use it in a publication of some kind? And they'll start asking questions. And some people have spent thousands of dollars on my photos. Other people have balked when I charged them $25 to use it.
Yeah, it just depends on what that really tells you where they see the value, isn't it?
Well, I've decided for myself that I'm no longer really in the market to give my stuff away to anybody who's trying to do something for a profit. Even like if it's a nonprofit, but it's a publication where they're generating some kind of income. I'm thinking, well, if you're generating income, then you can spend some income.
Yes.
Everything costs money. So that's kind of my rule for photo usage is, if you're generating some kind of income, even if you end up at a loss overall, it doesn't matter. It costs you money to print. Nobody's going to print your magazine for free.
That's true.
This is just part of the cost of putting the magazine together, and you have to decide if it's worth it or not. I will negotiate my price based upon the usage, and I've got something on the footer of my website for license requests. And I don't specify pricing specifically there, but I'm kind of at the point now where it's like the minimum is $250 to be worth my time.
Yes.
It's like if you want it, it's got to be $250 at least for something where you're going to generate some kind of income. Because other than that, I've got other things to do. I'm not really worried about selling something for $12.
I understand that.
I mean, an automated system like what I did before with those Facebook covers, that's different. I put it up there once and then the sales take care of themselves. But if
Yes.
I've got to do something custom for each customer, that doesn't scale. And it's got to be worth your time.
I understand that because it takes you a number of hours sometimes to put everything together, and it's the time spent negotiating, communicating, and then getting it ordered and putting together your letter and your agreement. A few hours for $12, I understand that, not worth it.
No, it's really not. And that's where I think the request for photo usage is. It depends on how do you value your time. If you want to donate something to somebody, I have absolutely no reason to tell you not to do it because those are personal judgments.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are going to come to you looking for something for free just in case they get it, because they've probably been told no by another photographer somewhere.
Probably.
And the last one on our list was requests for photography services. Basically, someone says, I like your work. I'd like you to take a photograph for me.
Yes, I've done that with you.
Have you now?
Yes, I need some photos taken for my website. And
yes, and Leah's coming up with her own website, and she needs more photos taken.
I need photos taken because apparently iPhone selfies are really difficult for people like me because I'm an old girl, so I don't carry it off with the same flair that a 15-year-old does.
Well, you're coming up with a running website, so you need something of you running, and you can't really, you don't want to be carrying a clicker in your hand, trying to run and then time when you're going to take the shot.
Oh my goodness, that does not work.
I've had requests for people who wanted me to do portraits, with their pets. I've had requests for people to come in or have me to come into restaurants and take photos. And those are things that I really don't do. And it's because I've made a purposeful decision that I don't want to take clients.
Yes.
So now if somebody came to you and said, I want you to take my photos or I want you to photograph my restaurant, how would you approach it?
I would ask them why and where they want to use it, because I need to find out what the value is to them so that I can determine whether this is going to be worth my while. I think for something like that, I would charge. I would want something back for it.
And I think that's the case. If they're asking you for photography services, they know it's going to cost them something.
Because going out to use the example of photographing somebody's restaurant, they're probably wanting more than just the restaurant. They're going to want food photos. They're probably going to want photos of maybe chef and people preparing things. And I'd need to find that out as well. But the bottom line is that is going to take a lot of time. I'd need to prepare for it. I'd need to get information because I think that's something, if you're not into photography, you don't really have to consider this. But a lot of planning and preparation goes into it. You need to find out that you have the right gear. It might mean going out and buying a small camera accessory or something that you need to help you with the lighting. It probably, if possible, would require a visit beforehand so you can assess the area and the lighting there so you know what you're going to need.
Everything you're saying is falling into what I would do as well. It's a lot of time planning. You're going to need to do your research. You need to do your planning before you even come up with a shot. So you need to know, what do they want? How are they going to use it? Yeah. You need to go look at the environment or where you're going to be taking the photographs. Basically, you need to understand what they want so you can not only deliver, but you can kind of over-deliver a little bit. And all that planning is part of your fee. A lot of people will come up and say, I want you to take a photograph of me. They think it's just a matter of one of you shows up at the other's location and click the shutter. They don't realize that there's a lot of planning that goes into it before, and there's a lot of post operations that happen afterwards. You've got to finish the photos, and they're going to be looking for prints or select photos.
And particularly if they know what they're looking for, or even worse, I think, if they don't really know what they want, but they don't know until they see it. And then there's the back and forth of, you send them stuff as proofs and they say, well, I would prefer, can you do this? And can you do that? And then you're redoing them.
Oh, if you get into reshooting, then...
No, I mean, with the post-processing, if they're looking for extras, I'm not even touching on reshooting.
But that's kind of the thing. It's like, if you don't have it really nailed up front as to what they want, and you're looking at the results, they say, well, I really would have rather had something with a fire coming in the back of the kitchen. Well, okay.
Where was the fire?
Yeah, we need to go back and shoot again. Are you looking like at an hourly rate for your services, or did you give them a flat fee and then suddenly you've got to spend more time and you're not going to get any more money out of it?
See, that's a good point, because I'm more the kind of person who would charge for a flat fee. I think that's how I work. And that makes me rethink what my approach would be. I mean, I don't do work for clients. That's not what I do.
Well, this is one of the reasons I don't want to do work for clients, is there's a lot of time investment into it. There is the back and forth, because you can go in there after you've done this a few times, you probably get burnt a couple of times, and then you realize things that you need to put into a contract.
Yes.
But look at what you're getting into. You're getting into contracts, you're getting into time invested, and this doesn't scale. What you do for one client doesn't necessarily work to help you with another client.
But also another thing on this topic is that I see a lot of photographers getting justifiably upset because people don't really understand how much work goes into it. The reality is, if you don't do photography, you're not going to understand, because the average person, why are they wrong to assume that you just slide out of bed into a pair of jeans, throw some sneakers on, put your camera over your shoulder and make sure the battery's charged and show up?
And
Then upload the photos and email to them. That's really what they think it's all about. But anything you do, I mean, it doesn't, whether it's photography or something else, there is a lot of additional time that sometimes is even more substantial than the time doing the task itself, in the preparation and in tying things up and making it all into a nice package.
And that kind of ties back to something we talked about earlier, was you still have to bill them and follow up on the billing to make sure you get paid for what you're doing. And all of this came from an unexpected request for something that you typically don't do. My typical answer for requests for photography services is thank you, no, I will see if I can refer you to somebody else who does it for a living.
Sometimes the better thing to do. Let the best person for the job do it. Now, if you're trying to develop some skills in that area, then, you know, select your opportunities. Maybe take something that's not too daunting, but enough of a challenge to allow you to grow, and be prepared to be burned a few times.
Perhaps. I mean, it's a big thing if you get into putting yourself out there as a service for somebody else. Not so much for prints or photo usage. That can, possibly develop into a business that doesn't require a lot of extra work. All you really have to do then is like, okay, what are you going to do and how am I going to bill you for it?
Yes.
But if you're going to go out there and put yourself out as a professional photographer, even though you weren't expecting to be one, it's a lot of work. And I think a lot of people may not be prepared for all the things that were going to come up. And it's bad if both sides go away dissatisfied, or even if one side goes away dissatisfied.
That's true. And often the person who asks you, especially if they don't know anything about photography, which generally they don't, or they'd be doing it themselves, they don't really know exactly what they want. Now, I like so-called difficult clients. People refer to them as difficult clients, but people who are extremely particular and they know exactly what they want, and they'll sit there and say, no, not that.
You can serve those people.
Those are the easiest people to work for. I know that a lot of people, starting out might see them as painful, but I love working for a boss or anybody who knows exactly what they want. But the reality is sometimes you don't know exactly what you want, but you've got an idea because you've seen something, but you don't want to copycat something else because you want yours to be unique. And you kind of go in there and say, well, I sort of thought maybe this and maybe that.
But that's the upfront time, I think, where you say, I sort of thought. By the time you go into a shoot, you want to know what you're expected to deliver.
There's no sort of anything.
Because if you don't get it in that shoot, you have to go back and reshoot, or else you lose the client, and then you don't really come up with much of anything, because they're going to have a hard time wanting to pay you, especially if you weren't smart enough to get a contract.
And that's where I think you need to discuss this and explain to them, I need to know exactly what you want, because you're protected under that. If we have an agreement, but if it's very loose and vague, you're going to be charged for a reshoot. I don't want to do that to you. You don't want me to do that to you. So let's figure this out together.
Well, my thought is that there has to be some kind of upfront fee, at least as a deposit. So your time is covered. You may go through and do the shoot, and they may say, I don't want to do anything that you did. And say, well, I still provided the service you requested. And that gets into a bad situation if you didn't plan things well up front.
Yeah.
So this is why I typically say no on photography services. Not that I can't meet a customer's needs. It's that I don't want to do that for a living.
No, I think you've really got to have, there's a special passion, a little bit of a gift that goes into working with people, and that it's a very personal level, even in business.
Well, it can become a very expensive thing. I look at some of the professional photographers and commercial photographers that I know, and they're aware. It's like, you don't just usually show up with a camera and flick off a few frames and then say, here you go. It is a lot of lighting. There are assistants. There are people on there to keep track of everything. There's contracts involved. If you're going to get into photography services, even it may not necessarily be a commercial thing. It may be, somebody who wants you to do their portrait.
Yes.
You can do it, but there's also risk associated with it. And the question is, do you want to accept that risk, and do you want to proceed? I wouldn't tell you don't do it simply because it's not my preference. All I'm saying is, if you're going to deal with doing photography services, even if it's just like, somebody that wants you to take a picture of her with her dog, just make sure everything's planned out and signed and agreed to before you set foot there with your camera to do some shooting.
Make sure you're both protected. You want to protect your clients.
Yes.
And you want to protect yourself. I mean, you take a photo shoot and the dog decides he doesn't like the smell of your shutter and he bites you on the arm, what happens?
Well, I hope that's not the case, but that's where insurance and more things come into
Well,
play.
yes, but there are so many things you need to think about. You actually need to sit and work backwards and say, okay, if I were a pessimist, right, the prophet of doom, what would they say?
And here's what happens to me is after I think of all this stuff and I come up with a rate, if this is for somebody who just wants something for their Christmas card cover, that rate is more than they're going to want to pay.
Yeah.
It's happened before. It's like when I come up and say, this is what I'm going to charge you for this. And this look and say, wow, why is it so much? Then I start laying it all out there and they said, I never thought of that. And I've done that a few times and I decided, you know what? I don't want to do client photography.
But what you could do if you did want to do that and they just wanted a Christmas card photo is they said, look, it's not worth my while and it's not worth yours just to do a Christmas card photo. However, if you'd like a mini family portrait session and then you can select the covers you want for your card or use various ones, I'd be happy to put together a mini package.
I like that because it's a bit of an upsell and that makes it where they get something extra that maybe they hadn't considered, but it makes it worth your while to do it. And they get what they want plus a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, they have to get themselves dressed and ready. They've also got preparation time. Really, for one photo?
Yeah, there's never just one photo. I can't think of a single time I've walked up and just taken one click. Said, got it. All right, that's all we have for this week. We hope you've enjoyed this. If you got any questions or comments, please let us know. You can find links available at williambeam.com/episode 59. Thank you for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. Of course, you can go to williambeam.com/episode 59 and get a transcript of the show there for free. Also, we would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Photo Flunky Show. You can find links available for iTunes, Google Play Music, and more at photoflunky.com. And finally, don't forget to claim your free copy of Creative Portraiture at williambeam.com/freebook. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.